Well, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. If there's anything I learned in my years of preaching in the jailhouse and working with people in general, especially people who have not got Jesus in their heart and are not subject to following the Scriptures as the Scriptures are, find themselves in a physical depression, mentally, physically, and many other ways. A mental depression can cause physical body breakdown, and you can end up in the hospital, not only in a mental institution, but you can end up in the physical hospital, physically broke down. Jesus is the only one that can sanctify the soul. By sanctifying the soul, he gives you the ability in your frontal lobe of your mind, in your heart, to sanctify your body, to cleanse it up, to change it from the ways of trying to satisfy it with the flesh to satisfy it with spiritual things. Now, I tried my best, my very dead level best, for 30 years, to please my body, my mind, and my life by doing the way of the world, by doing it myself, doing it in the flesh. No man can please himself. No man will ever be happy with pleasing himself. No matter how much money he makes, he'll always want more. No matter how much pleasure he has in life, he always wants more. No matter how much satisfaction he has in the one thing he does for the day, for the minute, or for the hour, he'll have to do more the next time to have pleasure in that. There is no long-term pleasure in satisfying self in the world today. The only thing that brings long-term pleasure is serving God. It is the only thing that will give you peace of mind, joy in your life, and satisfaction. When Saul, the man going across the earth, killing the Christians, was satisfied every time he killed one with that satisfaction that he had pleased God because those Christians were breaking the law. Now God was Saul, was a sanctimonious person to God. He believed he was doing the right thing. So Jesus had to come along and he'd say, I could use this man, Saul. I could really use him because he believes that he's doing right. And if I can get to his heart and show him what is right, he'll change his way. And he did. Jesus touched him on the road to Emmaus, knocked him off his mule, blinded him for a couple, 3 days, and spoke to him and said, Saul, hey Saul, Saul. And Saul said, who in the world are you? He said, I'm Jesus, the one you're persecuting. I'm the one you're killing my servants. You just killed Stephen. And Stephen was one of my taught men here, and you done killed him. And you're persecuting me. And Paul said, what do you mean? How am I persecuting you? I'm doing you a favor. I'm killing all those people that are following opposite from God. And he said, no, wait a minute now, they're not. He said, I'm going to send you a man. I'm going to send you over first to a tanner's house. Here's a religious guy, Saul, would not go near a tanner's house for loving the money, would not go near a place of what he called desecration. When you were following the law, you were not to touch a dead animal, anything dead, or touch anything like that, especially if you were a Nazarite follower a follower of God in such a way you didn't touch anything unclean. So here's Saul being sent over there. And then God's going to send to him a Gentile to tell him how much persecution he's going to have to follow the Lord. And then God has to change his name from Saul to Paul and make him a servant. Now, we see the same exact thing in me. I was persecuting all the Christians I could. I was cursing God. I was cursing preachers, persecuting God. God came down one morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning, November 5th, 1972, and said, "Hey, Peter, I'm going to change you. Well, you're going to have the same name, but you're going to be a completely different person in the same body, working at the same place, doing the same thing, being a paint contractor. But your language is going to change. Your demeanor is going to change. Your desire in life is going to change. What you say is going to change. Your will is going to change. You're no more going to steal. You're not anymore going to lie. You don't need any more alcohol in your life. You don't need any more cigarettes in your life. You don't need any more the things of the world in your life. And you will suffer some persecution for me. You know what's funny? You know what's real funny? Is we didn't consider that being arrested by the police, thrown in the jail, having to sober up, come to your senses, go to court, be charged, pay a fine, and all that stuff, we didn't consider that persecution. But it was. It was persecution from the devil. It was persecution at the top of the line. But here we go following Jesus, and somebody spits on us, and we consider that persecution. Somebody says something bad about us, we consider that persecution. What about all that before, that we was harassed and having all this problem because we were living outside of the realm of the law? The law says do not drink and drive. I broke it every day for years. I broke that law for years. The law said all kinds of things that I broke. I never spoke. I never acted, I never did anything that I wasn't breaking the laws of the land. And then I broke all the spiritual laws. I broke the spiritual laws by living under the satanic laws. Yet, I didn't consider that persecution when I ended up going to jail and whatever. I just knew that I deserved that. So now I start following the Lord, and I get persecuted for being a Christian. Well, that's good. That's good persecution. That's good persecution. I didn't know it, but going to jail for drinking and driving was good persecution too. It was supposed to turn me around and say, hey, you don't do that no more. But you know what? When the devil's got you in his grip, you follow what he says. The minute you ask Jesus to forgive you of your sin, come in your heart and save your soul, he will give you the ability to walk away from the devil's grip. And you got to follow God. Hebrews 2:11. Both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one. For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, and that he himself had suffered, being tempted, he is able to succor them who are tempted. Do you know that the devil took Jesus on a high pinnacle and tempted him? Do you know after he had fasted 40 days and nights, and he was very weak in the flesh, the devil tempted him, knowing that Jesus had the power to say to these stones, be bread, and pick up one of those stones and eat it as bread. Knowing Jesus had that power, the devil said to him, why don't you make one of these stones bread? You're starving to death. You just spent 40 days and now you're hungry. By the way, proper fasting can cause you to not be hungry. Proper fasting can cause you to not be hungry. Jesus was not hungry for that period of time. He was filling his soul. He was filling his life with God to the fullest, which he was God, but he was walking in a filthy earth, walking in a dirty earth, compassed about by the filth of the devil. And he's walking in cleanness, associating with the Father in the fullest of his ability, the three in one, God the Father, God the Son, the God the Holy Ghost. It's not possible for an average normal man to go 40 days and nights without food or drink. You've got to have water if you don't have food. But Jesus did it. And this Bible said, and afterward he hungered. And when he hungered, the devil came to him. He hadn't ate yet. And the devil said, hey, to you, them stones are bread. All you got to do is say, be bread. You brought the manna from heaven every day to the Old Testament people and rained it down from heaven. You made the manna. You made everything. But you're in a physical body right now, and that physical body needs some food bad. Just go ahead and tell that stone to be bread and eat it. Tempting Jesus, the great tempter. It said, we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, yet without sin. That devil tempted him, but he didn't sin. Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us. My friend, I'm reading to you scripture out of the King James Version Bible. I have read to you in the last hour several scriptures in the King James Bible that are omitted from the revised versions of the Bible. There are many hundreds of scriptures that are omitted in the other books that call themselves Bibles. I got news for you. They're not really Bibles. They're paraphrases. The real Bible is the King James Version Bible. If you're reading another book called a Bible, but it's a paraphrase, it doesn't have in it many of the scriptures I've read you today and will read you. John 3:16 is we are the love of God. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. This is the scripture unto salvation, to where by belief you say, God, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Commit my heart and save my soul. Revelation 1:5, unto him that loveth us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, I will make them come and worship before the feet, and to know that I am and have loved thee. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. When we're following the Lord, he gently loves us into doing things the way. We gently love our children. We got a little boy or a little girl born. And years ago, as I grew up, we had wood stoves. I know you can say, well, I'll let him go ahead and touch that stove and he'll learn not to touch it anymore. But the first thing I'm going to do to that young man is I'm going to tell him, son, if you touch that stove when it's hot, it's going to burn you. You may walk around it when it's cold, even put your hand on it. But when there's a fire in it, you better not touch it. Now, I can tell him that. More than likely, before he's done in life, he's going to touch something hot and find out that you don't touch something hot with your hand because it will burn you. Jesus said, I've got compassion on you. And if you touch something hot, I will forgive you of it. I am before you. I have defeated the devil. I do have compassion on you. He said, I will raise them up as a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And Psalm 110 and 4, the Lord hath sworn, and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Talking about Jesus. You know Melchizedek was a priest that came from nowhere and went nowhere? He showed up with no evidence of where he came from, and he left with no evidence of where he went. He was an order that God put in place during a time in the Old Testament that was needed, and we know that it was Jesus Christ, a time of revelation to fill the gap. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief, whom thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. He shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the travail of the soul, and shall be satisfied by his knowledge. Shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion among the great, and he shall divide his spoil in the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And he bare the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. And the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Lord of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on that city of Judah, again, which thou hast had indignation these 70 years? And the Lord answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comforting words. He shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. For there 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst. And the Lord said, Simon, behold, Satan desire to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed thee, thy faith fail not. And when they came to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If ye ask anything in my name, I will do it. And I will pray the Father, and he will give you another Comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye ask of the Father in my name, he will give it you. Hereunto have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask, and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. At that day you shall ask in my name, and I say unto you, that I will pray the Father for you. I'm asking personally the Lord Jesus Christ, and going directly to the Father, that before this body lays down in the grave, that God would work a great work at our church through some godly wisdom that he has given me. I had a long conversation with a very, very wealthy man who did not share the positive thoughts that I revealed to him about some things at our parish, at our church, at our place. God has given us, he has put in our hands some property. Does this property have some negatives? I would say this. It's how you look at it. How do you look at it? One of the things this man threw at me that told me that he was against it, not for it. What are we going to do with all the wasteland in it? There's a swamp. I said, I know there is. Ain't that beautiful? That God has given us a swamp. I am looking for that person who appreciates a swamp like I appreciate a swamp. I appreciate a swamp. You've got to have it. You have got to have that swamp. That swamp is the life of the property. It houses the water that you need. It houses the life that you need, the birds, the ducks, the birds, the things that are necessary for that piece of property. We can develop a bird sanctuary. We have 2 areas of swamp. Those 2 areas of swamp are a gift from God. He made the land be how it is for a purpose. These areas that retain water for a reason. First is they take care of the overflow. Second is that overflow becomes habitat, a very important habitat. We can develop it. It can be a showpiece of the property with boardwalks, walkways, with all kinds of things. The problem is we have people in the world today that look at just the negative side. As I was talking with this man yesterday, he said, "Hey, you're a positive thinker, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." Well, he said, "We've got this big swath we're paying for. Real money. We're paying for this big swath of power lines down through there." I said, "Beautiful. Isn't that wonderful?" To me, that is one of the prettiest spots in the whole property. So what do you mean, Brother Peter? I said, "I have an idea. We have people cutting trees down all over this county and this land that need a place to dump their chips. I said, if we could take those chips, harrow them into that land, let them spread. We'll spread those chips, and we'll take a harrow, and we'll harrow that in that land. We'll raise that land underneath that power line about a foot and a half, harrowing those in. In 5 years, I'll probably be dead and gone. But in 5 years, we can start cultivating, planting. Under that little piece of power line, about a mile long that we own, we could grow enough corn to feed this town. And maybe another town too. We can grow enough tomatoes to feed this town and maybe another town. We can grow enough beans. We can grow enough food under that power line and have permission to do it. And by the way, he said, it's wet. I said, beautiful. It takes water to grow vegetables. It takes water to grow things. So here we've got this section given to us that we can grow things in. We can grow a beautiful garden and not disturb the power people or the power line. And they can still have their roads up and down the sides of it and come in if they need to work on something to develop it. Another thing we have out there. But he said, well, you got sewer lines out there and you got this and that. I said, isn't that wonderful? They will maintain their sewer lines. We can tap into them, tie into them when we need to. Well, there's power lines underground out there. Well, isn't that good? We're going to put a camp out there and we need power. And the power is already out there. All we need to do is figure out how to tie into it and run it to our camp and to our buildings, our proposed school that we have there. But we've got a creek out there. He said, we've got a big old creek out there, a big old creek bed lying out there in fall. I said, isn't that wonderful? We got water, we got running surface water out there all the time. We can pump out of that surface water to our gardens, to our places, to different things that we need water for. We can actually go out there and block up and build up and make reservoirs in that and do things. We could actually have a fish pond that's naturally fed by water. There's a lot of things we can do. We can take all of the negatives that you see and make them all positives. Well, you got bureaucracy. You got this one and that one. Wouldn't like it, wouldn't like it, wouldn't like it. Well, I said we could pray them out of the way. We can pray them out of the way and prosper this place. Make this be one of the prettiest properties in the county. And use it for God's purposes. We're always going to need food. We're always going to have people that need food. We're always going to have the poor. I see profit sharing, food profit sharing. I see taking the little lady, the little man who have become, in a sense, a little bit destitute. They got a little age on them. They got a little bit of income coming in. They were raised by parents that knew how to plant a garden. And we've got the property they could come plant on. And we could say, Mr. Jones has an acre of land right here under this power line. We're going to plow it. We're going to harrow it. We're going to cultivate it. We're going to get it ready for you. You come over here and you plant that acre. You eat what you want out of it. You sell a little of it if you can, and to put a little away for your home living, to pay your utility bill, your rent, your thing. You give away whatever you want to give away. But you plant the garden and you do it, and it's yours. You got a place to come to. Listen, this is God's land. This is God's little acre. This is God's little spot. Right in the middle of a county, right in the middle of a city, right in the middle of a town. This is God's acre. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to develop it for God? We're the human beings. God's not going to just rain it down and develop it. He said, I'm leaving you responsible for it. You own it. I'm giving it to you, and I want you to handle it. I want you to take care of it. I want you to develop it. I want you to do what I would have you do. And while you're doing it, I want you to bring children in. I want you to have a camp over there. I want you to bring children. I want you to put a school over there. I want you to put some ethics back into some people. I want you to put a library. I want you to commit a library. I want you to commit some educational ideas to those young people that are in your care. I want you to show them that after they go to the school, the public school during the day, they can come over here in the evening, free will. They can take bicycles you have on the property and ride on the property and enjoy the nature of the property, out of the city, out of the realm of the telephone, out of the realm of the television, out of the realm of today's what is called entertainment. That they can actually come out here and actually do something for somebody else. The little bitty children that you have right now, you can put with one of those older ladies down there doing the garden. You can show them how to actually plant a seed and watch that seed grow and then eat the food off from what you planted. You can actually show them. You could take them on a trip to a farm and show them where milk comes from. You can ask almost any child today you want to, where does milk come from? They'll tell you it comes from the store. Well, where does it come from before it gets to the store? I don't know. And they don't. We have come to a point today, and I was talking about this with a man the other day. You can ask a child today, what is 2 times 2? And he'll get his telephone out. And he'll tell you it's 4. When you say, what is 2 times 2, 4 should have came out of his mouth. It should have been a mental picture in his head. 2 times 2 is 4. I have a mental picture in my head, as dumb as I was in school when I was a kid, but I have that in my head. That 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 2 times 16 is 32. I have that in my head. I see that progression. But we have children today who don't have that in their head. It is necessary to be in your head. If I'm going to, and I am going to, I plan before I die to see a building built. And what I have to do is calculate, if we're going to raise that building 8 feet off the ground and we're going to put a slab down there, how many feet of concrete is going in that slab and how much is it a foot? How much is it a foot to buy the raw material? How much is it a foot to prep the land and get it ready to put the wire down there, to put the plastic down there, to put the plumbing under it, to prep it, to make sure we have a place for the plumbing to run into a sewer system, a place to bring in the power line. All of the above is all educational stuff. And how many cement block it's going to take, and where the block have to be, and how many columns is going to have to be under it, to hold up whatever kind of building it is you're going to put on it. And all of that preparation done, and then how much is it going to cost to build a building? How many 2x8s, 2x10s, 2x6s, 2x4s? How many sheets of plywood? How many sheets of OSB? How many sheets of tin? How many screws? How many windows? What kind of heating system? What kind of cooling system? Everything follows suit. You know, we are a body fitly put together by God. He put this hair on this head for a reason. It protects this head. It's not just for looks. But there is a thing in the Bible that says when you get gray hair, you know your days are numbered. The problem is, well, that's why we got black hair. We don't think about our days being numbered. But when you sit before this screen right here and you see that gray hair, you know your days are numbered. I still have a little black in my eyebrows, showing I may have a day or two left. But they're numbered. We have left laying on the shelf for many years the very things that we need in education to continue on and be a civilized people. Planting a garden is one of the most important things on this earth. We have left the food area up to great big conglomerates that bring it in, and we go to the store and buy it like it was just there. It's just there. If I want a lettuce, I just run to the store and get a lettuce. Do you know there may come a day when you can't run to the store and get a lettuce? Do you know how to grow one? There may come a day when you can't go get a bean. Do you know how to grow one? There may come a day when you can't go get an ear of corn. Do you know how to grow one? And then do you know how to can it? Do you know how to put it up so that it'll keep? I can tell you right now, all over this South where I'm living right now, you can go to old farmhouses and you can find where grandmama and grandfather canned vegetables in jars, and there's closets full of them. And some of the young kids, when the grandparents die, don't have enough sense to know that that food is good 10 years, 15 years from the day they put it up, just as good as the day they put it in the jar. A jar of beans, just as good as the day they put them in the jar. A jar of beets, a jar of cucumber, pickles, a jar of beans. Those are just as good as the day that they put them up. Years and years afterwards. The expiration date is only, the fact is, if you open it and it is tainted, you'll know it. Other than that, it's edible. Our grandparents knew how to do things and knew how to do them right. And now we put stuff in cans, and the can is dated. The can has a date on it. What does the can say? The can said this can is put together and it's only going to last this many months. And it can taint the food that's in it. And so this is the problem. Had this been in a jar with a proper lid and seal on it and been done right, it'd be good for years. But no, we're canning in the cans that rust, cans that decay, cans that the bottom's actually, I was in my food closet the other day and saw where a can had ate through, and the material that was in it had ate the can up, and it was leaking. And had that been in a jar, I wouldn't have had that problem, and the food wouldn't have got bad. So we've got away from what was good to something quick and perishable. from the unperishable to the perishable. Anyway, back to the land. Here we got this big piece of land that we could bring back some of the things. We have right now before us a generation who does not, they do not know and could not quote you one thing out of the Declaration of Independence. Why? They're not being taught that. And the history they're being taught is not correct. The history they're being taught, many of the good points. Listen, I just got done an 8-week study of early American history. And I found out many things in that study of early American history that I had heard of when I was young, but didn't commit it. And now I've taken some of this stuff and committed it. And our forefathers, their names, and their names meant something. Their names meant something in that day. I saw a test just a little while ago. And this test asked all of these early American questions. And I found out it was a 5th grade test. And our college students today couldn't make anything above a D in it. Couldn't get anything above a D in it. College students of today couldn't get anything but a D in it, and it was 5th grade education a few years ago. Where are we today? We have left our first principles. We need to get back to our first principles. They worked. Well, you say they're gone today, Pete. They're gone. We've got the store to eat. Well, I know we have. Shut the trailer trucks down for 5 days and there won't be any food on the shelves. And we are a generation don't know how to get it up. Don't know how to grow a hog. Don't know how to grow a cow. Don't know how to get a gallon of milk without going to the store. Don't know how to cultivate a garden. We don't know how to live a menial life without a whole bunch of frivolous stuff on the outside of it. I got enough clothes in my closet for my own personal self that 6 families of boys and girls, boys and men could probably take out of my closet and live a good while. We're not careful anymore to just have what we need. Just have what we need. My grandmother and grandfather had one closet in their house. Her clothes hung on this side and his hung on that side. And one chest of drawers in the bedroom. And that's all they needed. Why did they need more? He wasn't like me. He didn't need 5 suit jackets. 6 suits hanging in the closet. 5 winter jackets, and he can only wear one at a time. 30 pairs of socks. Open my sock drawer and it's full. We don't need all of this stuff. We have it. And we don't think about the fact is we just need the bare necessities. And we're a country that is overrun with this way. Listen, I just had 2 missionaries in my house that live in lean-tos in their country. They go outside to the water pump and get some water. They do not have running water in the house. They do not have commodes that they can flush. We don't have closets. They have their clothes piled up. They don't have bureaus, dressers. They just have their clothes and you try to keep them piled up, keep them from soiling from the weather. The whole family, 5 people living in a lean-to. They have to cook on an open fire. All of the houses have an open pit fire. Just outside the house, they have a little stone hearth thing with a piece of wire on it, and they have to build a little fire in it. And put this pot on there, and all their meals are cooked in that pot. And when they came to visit me, that's what they like to do. I said, let me take you to the vegetable place, the place where you can buy what you like. And we go to the house, and you can cook it the way you like it. And they said, man, do we need that? We need a meal like we eat. They needed what they eat and the way they eat it. And they needed to cook it that way. They put everything in one pot and mix it all together. Everything becomes a stew. Everything becomes a stew to them. And that's what they needed. And that's the way they live. And when they go home, that's what they're going to have to do again. The American system that we put before them and the food we put before them, in a month or so, they would die. They can't live on what we live on. We have downgraded from the good, wholesome food to a bunch of stuff that's not wholesome. We have to eat 3 or 4 meals a day and something in between to keep our bodies going. And these guys know if they eat the proper thing before they go out, they don't eat all day. They don't eat all day. They eat one time and they go out and they go to work, and they're out there working, preaching, teaching, doing what they do all day, and they don't have food at their hand like we do. Food is not the biggest part of their life. Food is the biggest part of American life is food. Look at the restaurants. I live just a little ways from I live between 2 cities, 2 small cities. You can't hardly get waited on in a restaurant. Everybody's in there. You say, all day long, from early in the morning till late at night, the place is packed. People in and out, in and out, in and out. They're riding down the road. I got to stop and get a cup of coffee. Just stop and get a cup of coffee. And I guess while I'm here, I'm going to eat one of them little hamburgers. And a couple, 3 hours later, they're going down the road again, and they're passing through somewhere. There's a place right there. I like that place. I'm going to stop there and get me another cup of coffee and another little something. Hey, that's where we are in America. But you know that's all going to cease one day. And we're not training anybody and not training families to know how to live outside of that realm. We teach our children the same thing. I see people take their children down there for breakfast. Instead of cooking breakfast at home, they go and they stop even before school. They run down there and they say, what you want this morning, son? A sausage and biscuit, or one of them little hamburgers? What do you want with your orange juice or whatever? And they go down there and pay the price of a big meal for a little bitty meal to get their child through school for the day. Hey, we have forgot the first principles of what we need to get back to. And we're not going to get back to it unless we get a group of people together that are interested in getting back to it. That are interested in our youth. That are interested, women that are interested in taking a sewing machine and actually show a child how things are made. Starting with a patchwork quilt. Starting with something to cover up with without going to the store and buying something that you actually make. A sewing an apron. Something you actually can wear to work with in the kitchen. We have a kitchen at our church, and we don't have a program. We do not have a program right now teaching 12, 13-year-old girls how to get in the kitchen and how to make a bowl of oatmeal. We actually have girls and boys getting married right now that do not know how to put a meal together in the kitchen. We actually have 12, 13, 14-year-old kids today do not know how to turn the stove on. I don't know anything about setting a timer on an oven. Do not know anything. You say, Brother Peter, you're a preacher. What are you doing talking about all of this secular stuff? I got news for you. You leave all of this secular stuff off and you come to a nation like we are today. The Bible said a nation that forgets God will be turned out to destitution. We are a nation turned into destitution. We are a nation turned out into destitution. We have let prosperity come in and tell us we don't have to do anything but rely on this prosperity. We can just buy everything we want when we want it, eat when we want to eat, do what we want to do, and don't think about it, and just go on. And we're training our children up the same way. What is that child going to do when he's 16, 17, and he's been wined and dined all his life with no thought of having to work, no thought of having to do anything for anything? It just all's handed to him. And all of a sudden, he's in a position to where he has to fend for himself. How is he going to fend for himself if you haven't taught him the first principles? Not only that, let's get back to the Bible. The first principles of the Bible. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet other things that other people have. I really, really, really am proud of the majority of my boys. They have taught their children that they must work in order to succeed in this land. And they have raised boys who are working. Some of them have even raised a girl or two that has a little sense about them and can do a thing or two. Can even actually, I've got a couple of grandchildren that could actually cook. And then I've got a couple of grandchildren who are girls who wouldn't have any idea how to cook. It's going to be tough when that girl marries a boy and he's going to want something like Mama cooked. He's going to say, my mama used to fry me bacon and eggs for breakfast. Can you cook me some bacon and eggs this morning? And that girl says, are you kidding? I ain't got no idea how to fry an egg or bacon. Don't know how you do it. How do you put grease in the pan, or what do? Do you rub butter on the pan, or what do you do to fry an egg? I don't know how to break it. How do I break an egg open to fry an egg? Hey, you think that sounds far-fetched? I'll tell you what you do. Get you a group of youth at your church together. Take them down to a kitchen and say, I'm not going to tell you anything. There's pans right there. There's food in that refrigerator. I want you to make me a breakfast. I would like a bowl of cooked cereal, and I would like some bacon and some toast and a fried egg over medium. Not well done, just medium. I just don't want any runny on it. And I'd like that breakfast sometime in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I want a glass of orange juice. And I think that I really, even though I drink orange juice for breakfast, I usually drink a little milk. And then I like topping it off with when I get done with that little breakfast, I like a good cup of coffee to sit and drink. You got a half hour to get it all on the table for me. Can you see what a joke that would be today? to our average teen boy or girl? Do you see that happening? You know why you don't see it happening? Because you and I aren't training them. Because you and I aren't teaching them. We've got the facility, and we're not using it. We got the facility, and we're not using it. What are we using it for? Parties? Wedding showers? Baby showers? Anniversaries? Get-togethers where a lot of older ladies bring in a whole bunch of good food and serve it. And we're not, when we have something down there, why couldn't we have, say, how about you youth come down and cook this bunch of stuff? Here's what we want. Some simple stuff, macaroni and cheese. A big pot of rice. Oh, wait, can you see a big pot of rice that one of our young people cooked today? Sticky mush. They have no idea how to wash it and get it ready and put it on, and how to cook it and keep it from sticking on, and then how to rinse it afterwards and make it nice puffy rice with the grains are separate from each other. Can you see a bowl of oatmeal made by one of our youth today that's not instant? Take a box of oatmeal that you have to actually cook for 6-7 minutes and not stick it on and cook it. Hey, you know what? I'm just talking basic truths. I'm just talking about where we are today. You say, well, Pete, you've been going on here for 12 minutes on this stuff. Yes, I have. And actually I've been going on for a lot more than 12 minutes. 57 minutes. Wow. I got to be quiet. I don't know who's going to watch this excerpt, but God does. It may speak to one person. Do you know what? It was worth my time. It was worth my effort. It was worth what God gave me to just talk about some common sense things that we need to hear and we need to do, we need to adhere to. If I die today, this piece right here will probably be used a whole lot more than if I live. You know, the testimony of the testator is usually only good after he's dead. While he's alive, they say, well, who is he? Who's he think he is? But after he's dead, they say, well, you know what? He had some common sense in that talk. It's a shame that you have to die first before anybody realizes that you did have some common sense in what you said. I fall in this category too. If you told me to go in the kitchen and do what my wife does, I'd be lost. I couldn't make the meal she makes. If she makes a good meal and I eat it, man, it's good. Cooked a good meal yesterday. Rice and corn and some sausage mixed together. A conglomeration that a lot of people might not appreciate. But as long as it's good and hot, it was good. And so, listen, I'm going to close, but I'm going to tell you, start training your young folk in the kitchen. We're too busy running off to work to train our young folk. Train your young folk. Get them up earlier. Say, hey, you need to go to bed tonight before 11 o'clock because I'm going to have you up in the morning at 6 cooking breakfast. Wow, isn't that going to go over like a lead balloon? You may have to make that lead balloon fly before you're done. If you don't, you're going to pay for it later on when your daughter comes to you and says, my husband don't love me no more. Oh, he loved your body for a while, but he couldn't live with that cooking. He couldn't live with that not knowing how to clean a house. He couldn't live with that not knowing how to be a wife or not knowing how to be a husband. See, that's why we got everybody breaking up today, because they've not been taught. We need to start teaching that. Well, let me let you go. We're right at 60 minutes and 22 seconds. See you next time. Bye-bye.